Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This section will cover filing the annual report and remitting your unclaimed property. We're going to cover how to report, best reporting practices, common reporting errors, and data integrity issues. We begin with how to report. Some states still take paper reports. With paper reports, there are limitations on how much property can be included. If you have 15 items or less, in some states, you can report on paper. However, if you have more than that, you need to report online. Paper reports are limited in most states. There are state-specific forms that you may find on each state's website. Electronic reporting, as we discussed in another section, requires using the NAUPA format. There is free reporting software available, and we will provide more information on that in a later slide. Check your state's requirements for accepting CDs and online reporting. Now let's talk about the purpose of electronic reporting. In today's world, everything has moved online, and it is an accepted, even preferred, business practice. Electronic reporting shortens the time that it takes to process your reports, meaning the property will be available to claim faster. It also reduces errors and helps avoid misspelling and keying errors. Online reporting is mandated by law in most states. Remember to report electronically. You must use the correct format to create your file. How to report electronically. Some holders customize their unclaimed property programs within their own IT departments. There are also service providers that will gather your unclaimed property information and create your report. Again, you need to consider your state's requirements when deciding how to get your files ready and report electronically. Reporting resources. State unclaimed property programs accept the following free reporting software in a basic version. You can use the HRS Pro Web Standard Edition to create your file or another method. What are some common reporting errors? Sometimes, holders report property too early. Research your state's abandonment periods to determine when the property is due. It's always good business relations not to report unclaimed property if you can possibly locate the owners. If you can return your property to the owner, it's best that you do it. Holders need to stay current on due dates, the report cycles, and dormancy periods. Be careful to use the correct file format. Remember, paper reports are limited. Your files must be in required format, and you must adhere to the state reporting requirements. More common reporting errors include invalid property codes or invalid dates of last transaction. The last transaction date is important because it will determine if the property is reported timely or if it's late. Another key element is the relationship code. For example, if property is reported using the relationship code AND or OR, there will be differences in determining how states pay out that unclaimed property. Many types of accounts have beneficiaries who can also be listed on reports as secondary owners to make sure an account is paid properly, especially if the primary owner is deceased. Always provide the Social Security number if you have it. If we have a Social Security number, we can go into other databases and look up an individual to help reunite the money with the owner. It's a key element for proving ownership. Another common reporting error is not following the state-specific requirements. Unfortunately, not every state is the same. What are the data integrity issues? Incomplete owner names. Owner names in their proper format are very important because when states or owners go to search for unclaimed property, the format will determine a successful match. We do everything we can to find a property so that when someone makes the claim, we get all their properties on one claim so that they don't have to come back and make another claim. This is why the format of the names is key. If you just think from the state's perspective, it's the searching for what you've reported that's important so that we can get it on that claim. Incorrect last addresses can affect proof of ownership and cause issues with mailing. Sometimes we find a Social Security number reported for more than one owner. Once again, accurate Social Security numbers are very important in the processing of claims. Whatever you have in your database, you may not think that is important to us, but all the information that you have sometimes can be a key or help us locate the right owner. We need the full name and the last known address for the owners. We need the Social Security or tax ID if it's a business. We need the date of birth if you have it, and the last transaction date. We need you to use the right relationship codes too. It's all important on how we distribute the unclaimed property. We need you to review your reports thoroughly prior to submission for completeness and accuracy. Be sure to match the amount on the report to the check or electronic payment. I know that sounds elementary, but we do get amounts on our checks or electronic payments, and the report has one amount, and the amount remitted is different. Then we must complete extra steps to clear those discrepancies. It's very important to check that key element. Provide contact information with your report, because many times we need to reach out for additional information or see if there's any other information available that will help us connect the property that's reported to the individual that's made the claim. Contact names and information are very important. When you file on CD, if that's accepted by the state or online, make sure it's in the required format and you follow the state's requirements. Developing an unclaimed property program is so important. Make sure you have procedures for reporting unclaimed property, because I know when we look for employees to hire and look at candidates, there are very few, if any, that have unclaimed property experience. Now, if you have written policies and procedures for training people and someone leaves unexpectedly, you'll be prepared to train your new staff, and it will be a smooth transition. It takes a long time to train somebody when they get to unclaimed property because they have to become familiar with the state statutes and administrative rules. If there are written policies and procedures for them to follow, that's very helpful in the training process. Individuals within your organization need to have knowledge so that they can properly report unclaimed property. We get questions every day about how to report unclaimed property. It's very important to have point people that can answer the unclaimed property questions within your organization. It's equally as important to monitor the changes in unclaimed property law because we see them all the time. There's new statutes and new laws that have to be followed in reporting unclaimed property. When you do your due diligence, you're going to research your outstanding items and see if you can resolve them, monitor the third-party agents that are working for you, and utilize computer programs to track down last known information about owners. Then perform your due diligence mailing, and if at all possible, make it a goal to stay in contact with your owners so you'll know whether the property is really abandoned or not, or if your owner is still a current customer. What about extensions? Extensions ensure compliance, establish good faith, intent to report, and reduce audit risk. Always request an extension prior to the reporting deadline. A good example of the need for an extension is during COVID. We had many requests for extensions because people weren't able to get their unclaimed property reports together. Either they weren't in the office or the people that prepared them were not. There was just the loss of connectivity between staff and the office. States will work with you to extend your deadline. Our state requires a written request for an extension. Find out from the states what their requirements are to get an extension. The reason you may need an extension could be you had updates in your technology or your business had a change in personnel. Maybe you have a different transfer agent. A common reason we find is mergers and acquisitions. Maybe a holder's unclaimed property was in great shape, and reporting every year, however, they take over a company who has not had such a great track record. It takes time to get all those records together, so they will need an extension to get ready to report. Other circumstances requiring an extension are natural disasters or unexpected events. Property reported in error. We sometimes find that maybe your owner is really not lost, and you've reported it to a state or it was reported incorrectly, and it needs to be reinstated to the customer's account. Our state does not make any changes to holders' reports without a written document from them or a form saying that the property was reported incorrectly because we do not change the holder reports without their instructions. Examples of why a property is reported in error are timely activity has happened, and you may have located the owner, your customer may have contacted you, or you could have a linkage of accounts. For example, a bank customer that has a loan, but they also have a savings account. Maybe there is no activity on one account, but there is on the other. There are means of linking accounts together and locating your owner. What is a holder reimbursement? This occurs when a holder has reported something to a state and they need to claim the funds back. It could be the property was reported in error, or it could be the customer has come forward and asked the holder to return the money, so there can be a need for a holder reimbursement after the money was reported to the state. Holders can readily refund their owner if they have funds. Some states require that the holder has paid out the owner before they'll return the funds to the holder because they're trying to make sure that the unclaimed property is going back to the owner. It maintains goodwill with your customers when you can return their funds, And also, when a holder is reimbursed, it makes them whole again, so they're not out of the funds 2 times. This is the conclusion of the filing and reporting section. Thank you.